Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show with your hosts, Rusty Buckets and Uncle Buck. Now, let's get to the show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to your Monday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, as always, Rusty Buckets, coming to you from East Memphis, Tennessee. This is a pre-recorded episode because my guy, Drew Gann, who I have here with me, is busy out educating the masses. Uncle Buck, tell the people where you are.
Yeah, so I'm in my basement in rainy Northeast Mississippi at the moment, but on Sunday, that is. But as you're listening to this, we are doing a demonstration for how electricity works for little kids at the library. So, it's always fun to educate people because I'll be honest with you, when I was leaving high school, I don't know about you, Rusty, I thought that engineers just drove trains when I was in high school and coming out. So it took me like 4 years after getting out of high school and a failed run at community college and rock and roll before I ever even figured out that there were other kinds of engineers. And then I was like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Engineering wasn't something that I even really thought about until I got to Starkville with Mississippi State having a big engineering program. And so I'm glad you're out doing your civic duty. If there is a video that surfaces of you putting a fork or something in a socket to show how electricity works, I need to see it. And the people need to see it. So if that happens, you need to send that along.
Yeah, part of the demonstration is what not to do with electricity. And so I end the show with a light show. And the light show is 120 volts of electricity running through my body as I shove a knife into an outlet.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Well, hey, we got a lot to cover today, a lot happening in the NBA over the course of the weekend. Probably some stuff's going to happen during this recording, after this recording. But we're going to talk about everything that's happened. We've also got a very special guest in the interview coming up here in a few minutes. Y'all will recognize him from a viral video that happened last week. So y'all stay tuned for that. But we might as well get started with everybody's favorite waste of time.
All right, Rusty, it is Monday. It is our first Two Buck Sports Show of the week here on Bluff City Media, and it is our first segment, which means that we have to tell everybody what happened to us this weekend. We call this segment our best and B for the week. It's where me and Rusty just take a few minutes to waste everybody else's time, but just to educate each other and for those who care on the best thing that happened to us this week and our biggest beef of the week. Rusty, who is sponsoring this segment?
Yes, sir. This segment is brought to you by Donna's Italian Beef, 509 Constitution Drive in Iuka, Mississippi. The best spot for breakfast or lunch if you're heading to Pickwick, if you're milling about the great metropolis that is Iuka, Mississippi, in the northeast corner there in Tishomingo County. You're in Tishomingo County, excuse me. But Jim's been watching the show. Jim, thank you for sponsoring this segment. He wanted me to remind everybody of what is a true Mississippi delicacy, Drew, and I know you're a fan of this. They also offer chocolate gravy and biscuits to get your day started in one of the best ways possible. Drew, tell them about chocolate gravy.
Well, I mean, if you just use your imagination just for a minute, you can figure it out. But it is so much better than it sounds, because if you think chocolate gravy, it is not like a heated up Hershey's bar. Okay, this is a gravy. It's a little bit more milky. It's very runny. The best chocolate gravy's got a little grit to it if you make it right. And you just put on a biscuit. It's not really hard to imagine. It's not really hard to put in your head. But I will tell you that if you think we're crazy, try it. That's all I got to say. Is if you think we're crazy, just try it.
Yeah, trust me. Don't knock it till you try it. If you like sweet treats for breakfast, like cinnamon rolls and pancakes and syrup, you got to try chocolate gravy because it's made for you.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and there's a reason why Mississippi is the fattest state in the union.
Listen, we're not anymore, but we're close. We are, like Leslie Note says about Pawnee. We're first in friendship, fourth in obesity. That's the great state of Mississippi. But check out Jim and the folks at Donna's Italian Beef, 509 Constitution Drive, 7 to 3 Monday through Friday, 7 to 11 on Saturdays. Uncle Buck.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is where me and Rusty just talk about our weekend. Since the last time we talked, Rusty, our best in beef. I set them up, you knock them down. What's the best thing that happened to you this weekend?
It was kind of a low-key weekend. It was nice. Maggie worked. I got a lot of stuff done around the house, including a lot of real estate school. And I am a mega nerd. I love learning new things. I love just kind of immersing myself in new topics and learning new stuff. And so I got my notebook that's filling up with notes already. I'm enjoying learning it. But yeah, I started real estate school over the weekend and got a couple irons in the fire. More details to come about those as they come down the pipe, but super excited about this new season. And Drew, this is something that I don't know that I would have done myself. It's something that's always kind of been in the back of my mind that'd be fun to do on the side or, as just a secondary option. But I'm going to give it a shot as my primary vocation, and we'll see what comes out of it. But I've just been enjoying learning and, diving back into student mode, I guess.
You said that this is not something you ever done for yourself, and I think everybody can relate to that to some degree. I know that I can. I've shared this story before. It's like I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Like I said, I'm an engineer now, an electrical engineer. But coming out of high school, I didn't know what engineers did. And so I got in a rock and roll band, and we toured the country. We had fun. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't think I can do this forever, but I don't have any better options. And as the great American poet Garth Brooks once said, sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. Mm-hmm. The lead singer quit and forced my hand. So I had to figure out a career, and I landed on engineering. And so I hope that your next career has the same amount of fulfillment as my second career did.
I appreciate that. I'm excited. It's scary as all get out because with realty, there is no guaranteed income. And I've been a salaried employee since.
Try being a rock band.
I get it. This is also me as an established adult with bills late in life, right? I'm not just some 20-year-old touring the country having fun. I've got responsibilities and student loans and things. So T's and P's to my way, if you don't mind, just to make sure that I land on my feet with this and then it goes well. And then I pass my exam in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, when I was playing rock and roll music, I was still on my parents' insurance and eating Happy Meals. So I was all right. So all right, we're gonna snake draft this because I've got a best, but it also ties straight into my beef. So we're just gonna snake draft this one. We're gonna a little wrinkle. Okay,
sounds good.
All right, my best of the week is I fixed a problem at my house that I've been having forever, and it's I put it off, and we've talked about this before. There's nothing that makes you feel more manly or more productive than having the opportunity to fix something at your house with no assistance from anybody except Google and YouTube. Yeah. And so I've got a Ring doorbell. My house is 75 years old. Sturdy house, beautiful house, old house. And the doorbell quit working and the chime quit working. So I was like, okay, well, this is fun. Problem I've never had before. I wanted to figure out how to do this. So I do some research, realize there's a transformer that reduces the voltage to get to the whatever in this. How do I find it? I called a friend. He's like, it's probably in the attic. So I fixed it, replaced everything. But my biggest beef of the weekend was I spent a lot of time in an attic in North Mississippi when it was 95 degrees outside. And you can 1.5x the temperature outside to feel what it's like in an attic. But I told my wife yesterday, I was like, I fixed it. I was like, oh, I'm proud. She thought there were higher priorities. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to fix something else. That light bulb's out. I'm just starting fixing stuff. It's like, I'm going to ride this high as long as I can. So, my best thing that happened this week is I fixed some stuff around the house and it made me feel manly and accomplished. The biggest beef of it was 175 degrees in the attic where I hung out.
There was a time in my life where I thought going to schools for the birds, I want to learn a trade and I want to go, do something with my hands. That's how I want to earn my living. And shout out to you blue collar workers out there because it's a task. And my dad was like, cool, why don't you go hang out? I know somebody that has a heat and air company. And so I went and hung out with a guy around Carnes, Brandon Shaw, one summer. And that was one summer too many for me to be out in the sun. I'd worked on a sod farm, rainy sod farm while I was in high school. But, in high school, you're young, dumb, and think everything's great. But that one summer between senior year of high school and freshman year of college was all that I needed to know that was the last thing I wanted to do was learn a trade like that where I would go sweat my tail off. And plus, when you're 6'5", and at the time I was like 240, 235, you don't fit in small HVAC spaces very well. Right. And so I'm very grateful that I prevailed over that feeling.
As soon as I got my driver's license, I was like, Dad, I want to go to work. And he's like, okay, I know a guy who does construction. And I was like, all right, send me his number. And he's like, just drive to the job site, meet this guy, and just be his helping hand. And what we were doing was sweeping up the inside of the floor, like scraping the windows, had all the stickers, scraping all those, using a push broom. You think that's nothing. But there's no air on in this house. And again, it's the dead of summer in a vacant house. And it is just, I lasted. I'm ashamed to say it. As like a freshly 15 and a half year old kid, I lasted like 3 days at that job. And I was like, nope. I'm out. I'm out.
I'll be brief with my beef of the week. It's kind of on the same vein of being out and hot. I went, and Drew, I need you to turn off your sensitivity here. I'm not speaking at you because I know you're a part of this world. But I went and watched my 7-year-old nephew play in the Disney World Series in South Haven this weekend, and watching what is the culmination of a long season. It just made me realize that there are a lot of smooth-brained people out there. Watching these parents harass these kids and harass these umpires, and like one of the coaches from my nephew's team, they were playing a game and they were up big, and the other team came back because they had just dozens and dozens of errors, like 6 and 7-year-old kids will.
Yes.
Particularly on the infield, and all the infield players were coaches' kids. Wasn't many in the outfield, but let a ball kind of bounce around the outfield for a minute, and it was outfield, wake up. And they wouldn't say anything to the infield kids.
Yep.
But just watching them berate the outfield, the umpires, just like going at it. One of the coaches, when the kids were coming off after that game that they had built the lead and ultimately lost the game, some of the parents were saying, "Hey, great job, buddy. It's okay. Great job." And I overheard him speaking to his wife and just said, "Whoever's telling these kids great job needs to quit. It's not a great job when you lose like that." And he comes walking over to me, and he was like, "They need to stop saying good job.
Sir, this is the Wendy's.
They hadn't earned this. I know they're 7, but they didn't earn that good job." And I was like, "Hey, they're 7, 7 years old." And just walking away. Because I just like, it wouldn't do for one of them to be my kid. And just like watching that, like truly smooth brain activity. And so my beef is with travel ball coaches and parents and how they think, especially like it's coach pitch. Like, first of all, travel coach pitch ball is the new world to me. That wasn't a thing when I was coming up. I played travel ball in high school when it was, kid pitch, but like just watching one of those people lose their mind was like, A, I'm grateful I don't have kids. B, I'm grateful I'm not a part of this world. Yeah,
well, there is no offense taken for me because I would not have my kid in that environment. And I know that it is stupid stuff. Good friend of the show, Gary Parrish, or my best friend, Gary Parrish, ran into him at several travel ball tournaments and talked to him. And, he's talked about like, every year my son's team breaks up because the parents can't handle each other. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm so thankful for the team that we're a part of because everybody's so low key and we suck. And, should we be like, should I take my kid to a team that's more competitive in which the parents act like that? Or should we just like have fun, like, and enjoy it? And we're like, no, I think we'll just like have fun, enjoy it, let these kids develop their classmates. Like, what are we doing here? He's 8 years old. We're not chasing rings. The only time I did tell my son, because, we are like, good job. The coach, every time they break it down after a weekend of travel ball, he makes sure that tell every one of his players to go hug their parents and the people that came and saw him. And it always means a lot to me. But I am one like, you did good or you did bad, like whatever. A little victories, big errors, stuff like that. We talk about all of it. He did ask me one time. He's like, "Can I go buy a ring from? They sell jewelry at this stuff." And I was like, "Son, I'll buy you anything, but I'm not buying you a ring."
You
will earn a ring. And that's the closest I've ever gotten to saying, like, no, you didn't do good.
Yeah.
Like, no, you did good, but you did not earn a ring. And I'm not buying you a ring.
That's it, man.
So,
well, hey, listen, appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We've got a very special guest here on the other side of the video coming in to talk with us about the NBA draft before we dive into some more NBA topics later. So y'all buckle up. This is going to be a fun one.
what up?
What up, guys? How are you? Thanks so much for having me on.
Rusty, introduce our guest. What do you take?
I'm sorry.
So long?
The music kept playing over and over in my ears. It played 3 times. So I'm just like, all right, when's it going to end? So sorry. We have got Drew Semler on the show today. Drew rose to some internet fame last week. And I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you for joining the show, man. I appreciate you coming on to hang out with us. And we're going to play the video here in a second. I hope you don't have any like PTSD around it, because I want the people to kind of know what we're going to talk about and what the emotions were behind this video. But first of all, Drew, how are you today, man? You doing good?
I'm good, man. Look, you can tell by the Great Wall of China background I've got right now on StreamYard that I'm rebounding. All right, fans, we're tough. We're some of the most emotionally tough people in the world. Portland fans have been through it. Play the clip.
Here we go.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes! Yes! Oh my God! Oh my God! Cedric Coward is a Portland Trailblazer. Oh my God!
Drew. I don't
Oh
want to.
my God! Okay. So, yeah, the Thunder window just closed. Wemby, you're gonna need to descend from the mountains because you got a new team to compete with in the West. Cedric Coward, 6'6". He's got the unique Jalen Williams build in that he's like 6'4", 6'5" without shoes, with a 7'2" wingspan. So you combine that extremely low center of gravity of a shorter guy with the reach of a much larger guy. He's got like an 8'10", 8'11" standing reach, which, for context, is like they're small NBA fives with that standing reach. But like he's power forward sized, but his shot is butter. He reminds me a lot of Phoenix Mikal Bridges, with his like really, really controlled pull-up game. And God, just watch this man shoot a ball with the length that he has, and you'll immediately buy in. Plays his tail off on defense. 39-inch vert, as you see here on the screen at the combine. But let me take you back a little bit because I'm hyperventilating because I can't believe this actually came true. God. Thank you.
Drew, I've got really bad news.
No, God, no.
I'm sorry. He's a Grizzly. I hate to do it to you.
I love that so much.
Drew,
listen. Also, this is a new episode name, Between Two Drews, where Rusty's just in the middle.
I like it.
I've got to
Between two
give you
Drews is solid.
I want to give you a lot of credit here because as podcasters, and we're a little podcast in Memphis, Tennessee, and you guys got one up in Portland. You video it, and it's like you just kind of expose yourself to the world, and for you to own it and just post it and just be like, "This is my misery. Enjoy." Hats off to you, brother.
Well, you know what? It was more my co-host Max who's like, "Yeah, we're gonna need to put that out," but give your pain a purpose. I said it's my pin tweet right now. Like Joe Cronin, you can't hurt me anymore. You know, when Chris Vernon throws up your clip, like you can smile. It helps the healing process. But I gotta ask real quick: is that an Ole Miss hat you're wearing?
It is.
Hotty
We're
toddy.
diehard rep.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today, Drew. I appreciate you, man. But we're gonna go ahead and get.
I just was gonna say it's a long story, but I've been an Ole Miss basketball fan for a while. You know, Tarico White, Craigman back in the day, Terrence Davis, South Haven. But yeah, all right. I know there's a Memphis to Ole Miss pipeline. Hotty toddy.
Hey, hotty toddy. Let's
This
just
is my
camp
hell.
out right here for a second.
This is my personal.
He's a
hell.
Mississippi State fan. This is his worst nightmare. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I was on the Cedric Coward train pretty early. You know, if you're familiar, the Grizzlies didn't have a pick until like 2 weeks before the draft. And so we had to cram, and I just kind of did some Googling and found a guy that I liked. And then it turns out he was also 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan and had a good shot. And so I just kind of said, okay, he's mine. How early did you get on the Cedric Coward thing? Is there like an Oregon connection there from his D3 days? What's the deal? How far back does it go?
So I'm glad I just mentioned Ole Miss because I swear I was like a year or two. Sam Vecini's on this stuff before anyone, I would say, from the Athletic, but I was on the Cedric Coward bandwagon super early because when he was on Eastern Washington 2 years ago, they came to Oxford for like an Ole Miss tune-up game, and he was clearly an SEC level athlete and looked special against our really talented team. And just was clearly a late growth spurt guy who didn't belong on Eastern Washington. And I was intrigued, but kind of forgot about who he was. And then he pops up on Washington State, ready for his big high major breakout season, and dominated like his first 6 or 7 games, whatever it was, before the injury that prematurely ended his season. But because of that, my co-host can attest, like I was sending Cedric Coward messages in the winter saying, just hold on, this guy's going to shoot up boards. It's not just the measurables. Like he's a hooper, and it's very hard to find significant holes in his game. So yeah, I'm not always early on guys like this, but Cedric Coward, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
As you should, man, especially because just the joy that you had that he had joined your Portland Trailblazers. I do want to ask, so you're based in New York City, but you're a Trailblazers fan, you're an Ole Miss basketball fan. What's the connection to the Pacific Northwest?
So my dad and his whole family are from Portland. So huge Blazers fans. My dad, I think, ran on the court in 77 when they won our only title.
Yeah.
He, showed me breaks of the game, probably the best basketball book ever written. And Bill Walton was just like a pillar of my childhood growing up. I was really young for like the Sabonis and Pippen teams, but I just got my Portland education early on. But I grew up in New York because my dad went to college on the East Coast, met my mom there. But he did a good job of indoctrinating me and my bros.
Yeah, man. Like, and that was a good time to be a Portland fan though in the 90s. Yes, you didn't win a ton like big games, but even early 2000s, like Brandon Roy was like could have been. He's one of the biggest what if stories in the NBA history if he hadn't gotten hurt. And then it looks like is your co-host just a big Boris Diaw fan, or is he a Spurs fan, or what? Yeah. What's with that?
Yeah, so Boris Dirk, that's the name of our podcast. We just wanted to do a play on 3 sort of iconic figures in the NBA world. Doris Burke, Dirk Nowitzki, and Boris Diaw. And we're both huge Diaw fans. Like I kind of fell in love with the NBA through playing fantasy basketball with my dad when I was super young. And Boris Diaw was always a sneaky fantasy stud. We're talking Suns Boris Diaw averaging like 13, 6, and 6. And I just remember it was hard to find guys back in the day with that specific stat line. It's like he wasn't a star, but he had a lot of on-ball duties. He's playing the post. He doesn't look, lean and cut like all the other NBA athletes, but somehow he's way smarter than everyone else on the court. I was a fan. I love those Phoenix teams.
So you're speaking a language to me real quick, Drew. Like I played fantasy baseball for years and years and years, and I played in a keeper league, and my keeper was Pablo Sandoval, the big, the Panda Bear, the third baseman.
I have his jersey. I got a jersey.
So he was just a fantasy stud. Like he never won anything, no awards, but he was a fan. Like he was the keeper for me for about 6 seasons in a row, and he never let me down. So I can appreciate fandom of a player. I'll always appreciate Sandoval for that.
Yeah. My first favorite team was that 7 seconds or less team because of Steve Nash. Short guys, I always root for the short guys.
But I do want to say, like, I think Portland fans specifically have a special appreciation for the Zach Kleiman Grizzlies era because, it was the bubble. I think the bubble season, the season that ended in the bubble was Ja's rookie season. Mm-hmm. And we played you guys twice in the bubble. And I remember those games vividly. They were 2 barn burners. The first one, I think, was an overtime, 140 to 135. We beat you both times. But the first game was a Jaren game. Young Jaren just went off. I think he had 35 the first time we played you in the bubble. And then the second time was a Ja game. He had 35. And that was when we were playing you in like the play-in. It was before the play-in existed, but it was the bubble play-in. Right. You had to beat us twice. We had to beat you once. Carmelo's my least favorite player on the team. Like that was Blazers Carmelo. And like, it was just, it was very obvious for people that watched that you guys had something special, that there was a real toughness and a fearlessness to your young core. And I remember coming away like, sheesh, I'm glad we didn't have to play them again. And that team is only a couple years away from being a real problem.
It's crazy to think that because as you're talking, I'm kind of putting like several storylines between Portland and Memphis together. All the way back to Zach Randolph. We wanted desperately Donovan Clingan last year. Mm-hmm. We do the trade this year for Cedric Coward. A lot of the reason why the Grizzlies got off of Desmond Bane, I think, in my opinion, is because of what I've called and I've heard called the Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum problem, where you got two guards that neither of them really defend. And, and so I see that. I see a lot of parallels to that.
For sure. I think we saw it again with the Sexland pairing in Cleveland with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. You might even
Why
be
did
seeing
that never stick?
I don't know.
It absolutely should have.
Jared Allen was on to something.
even now with Mobley and Jared Allen as like the bodyguards in Cleveland, like it's still an issue for them that they're always navigating with Garland and Donovan Mitchell, two amazing guards. So, but yeah, man, like I've just been really appreciating Zach Kleiman from afar now for like half a decade, because like I was going through his draft record, 2019, his first draft, like 2 months after he's named GM. You guys get Ja 2, who I liked more than Zion at the time, because I just thought Zion's body and his, like his lack of skill and ability to score without really putting his body on the line was going to be a problem. And my friends called me crazy at the time. I've been wrong before, but I was right about Ja. Ja 2, Brandon Clark at 21, and Xavier Tillman at 35. So like Kleiman's first draft was an A+++. 2020, he gets Desmond Bane at 30. 2021, he gets Aldama at 30. Trey Murphy at 17 trades him away. We don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, because there are a few misses, not many, but a few, and that's one of them.
Yeah, 2022, Jake LaRavia at 19, Vince Williams Jr. at 47. I mean, Walker Kessler at 22, trade him away. We don't have to talk about that.
It's not a perfect science. The problem because we moving up to 11 to Portland's pick to take Cedric Coward, I feel like was a lesson that was learned because you got stuck with Zaire Williams at 10.
Yeah.
Because they thought that either Josh Giddey or Franz Wagner would fall to him, and they weren't aggressive about it. And so when they both go off the board before 10, they end up just taking the Toolsy project, and it didn't work out. So I think that was a lesson that Kleiman learned, And then LaRavia,
LaRavia, but he's a toolsy guy. Like I feel like that guy has winning DNA. I'm sad it didn't work out for you guys. Like
this is going to be the True Drew podcast before too long.
Listen, Drew has the Jake LaRavia tattoo lined up because he planted his flag on that island.
He should have never been a six man. It's not his job, but because of injury and because coaches just love guys like Jake LaRavia, he played way more minutes than he should have.
Yeah, but I do think he's going to slot into, whether it's Sacramento or elsewhere, like that dude's going to have a long career. I just believe that because he doesn't have any stark weaknesses, and I just like guys like that, like kind of switchblade wing off the bench. But 2024, obviously, you take Zach Edey at 9. I thought that was a reach, even though I like Zach Edey. I think 9 was a little rich for him, and like you said, after Klingon left, after the Blazers got Klingon, you probably felt like there was a big fall off at the 5 in that class. But Jalen Wells at 39, like goes without saying, that was huge value for them. And Cam Spencer at 53, like brings competitive fire that I think you need in your locker room, whether or not he's a contributor on the court. Like that dude's going to be an NBA player.
He's going to play in the NBA for a while.
I think one of the moves this offseason that we're going to see Memphis do is put Cam on a full-time deal, because we're going to have to kind of negotiate some two ways now with the 2 new rookies that we got in this year's draft, which both have tremendous upside. Neither of them, I think, are going to be just like your everyday NBA players, but they're going to be like situational guys, right? Like Mace Jack is one of the best defenders in the draft, and I think he can plug and play. But we did it was kind of a rich trade, some said. So we made a first-round swap with y'all. We went from 16 to 11 and vice versa. Give you Orlando's 2028 first round and then 2 second-round picks. What do you think about the Blazers pick there with the big center out of China? Is that is that another need for y'all? I mean, you've already got Klingon and Ayton, and it feels like a plethora of bigs.
My first thought was there's no way we're keeping him. And by the way, I hadn't watched any tape on Hansen Young Hansen. I'm still not sure which way the name goes.
I was going to ask you.
Young Hansen, I think.
Young Hansen, which apparently the draft community didn't know, because I had only seen his name spelled out the other way. And so when Adam Silver said it, I short-circuited. I didn't even know who it was. And I watched a lot of tape of a lot of dudes in this class, and he was not one of them, in part because the Chinese league is really hard to find footage on, and also because none of the people that I really respect in this space had him in their top 40.
Right.
And I was like, let me just get a nice feel on 30 or so dudes. So that was crazy. Immediately, I think, what the hell does this mean for Klingon? Because I can't think of two prospects in recent memory who are less likely to be able to share the court together. But, here now, fast forward a couple of days, you see the Great Wall of China behind me. I'm calling him the Great Walton of China. And I just want to say, like, on some level, the audacious side of me really respects our front office for putting their jobs on the line in this way. You do not make that pick unless you're ready to go down with Young Hansen. And the offensive tape, the little bits and pieces I've been able to scrape together on shady URLs, like, it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
But I'm also a huge Klingon guy, and I believe in him long term. So,
So
and
do
now
we.
So now we have 5 centers on the roster. And look, anyone who's telling you they have a real handle on Young Hansen's NBA prospects is full of crap, because there's just not that much available footage in the US, and even if you have access to every minute he's played the last couple of years, it's against athletes who are so far below the NBA standard that it's an educated guess, like it is with a lot of these prospects, but more than most. So, I just, it's a wait and see, but I respect that, Jokic has been the best player in the league for a few years now. And, Mike Schmitz, who's our assistant GM and kind of at the top of, I think, the draft team in Portland, is looking for that next transcendent sort of offensive hub at the 5. It still breaks my heart because I had Cedric Coward at 5 on my board. What people are saying is that Joe Tsai at 19 really wanted Hansen Young. And so Portland felt like if they didn't pick him at 16, like they weren't going to have a chance to steal him. But when the alternative was getting a guy that I thought was such insane value at 11, it hurts, and it still hurts a lot.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, and I was really hoping that, like, number 6 on your big board was going to be Hansen Young, just because you were so in, and we've all been through this in one way or the other. It was just like absolute heartbreak in an instant. Everything you thought you had, you lost. And so I was really hoping you were going to be like, but I did really love, if you've not heard of this 7-foot guy out of China, really underrated. It's on my list. I was really hoping that was your train of thought.
No.
Yeah. As fans, me and Rusty talked about this on our last show on Friday. As fans, you do always come around. You try to find that reason why this is going to be amazing.
And also, I don't want to blame the kid,
Yeah.
Like I don't want that negative energy. I've been really pissed at Portland fans the last couple of years for just how hard they've been on Scoot Henderson, because it's like, you want to prove yourselves right that he was a bad pick, like keep talking crap about him, like we got to give these kids confidence, because that's his only chance of figuring it out. But
we have a whole section of our fan base that is actively trying to get us to trade and move off of Jaren Jackson Jr. simply because he doesn't rebound. You got a 20-point per game DPOY, and there is a section of Dark Grizz Twitter, Grizzleverse, Grizzly Land, whatever you want to call it on Twitter, that want to get him moved. And it's like, guys, like literally he will go anywhere else and continue to be exactly what he is just because he doesn't rebound. So we can appreciate that Scoot Henderson hate.
I'll take the 3-point shooting along with the subpar rebounding, and he just gives you so much lineup flexibility. I mean, I don't need to pitch you guys on Jaren. That's insane to me.
No,
but
we love him. Yeah.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite NBA player by far. He's a true unicorn because he can rebound. He did his rookie year, but ever since he's been a perimeter DPOY candidate and a perimeter big, like missed me with all that mess.
And the left-handed finishes, just his drive game, like the cadence. I mean, he moves like a guard. It's always beautiful to watch. And look, even around the edges, like I feel like Kleiman's War Room has had a special toughness detector the past 5 years, like a knack for identifying unconventional archetype sleepers, whether it was D'Anthony Melton was one of the first guys I know Memphis traded for when Kleiman stepped up, undersized Brandon Clark. We've talked about way undersized guard Scottie Pippen Jr. Like I know
Anderson, who doesn't run.
slow-mo.
Yeah,
and
literally.
And it's been easy to pick apart the Grizzlies like this last year because it's been such a confusing time with like so many things that are not basketball related. But
right,
I don't think you can put that on the personnel decision makers. Like you guys always have really good role players around the edges, and the roster just seems to go deeper than most teams in their range of the standings.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem that the Grizzlies have tried to address is like you've got depth, and they love depth, and regular season depth works, but you need 7 guys when it comes to playoff time. And I think that's where you're trying to consolidate this year. And to take it to Portland, because I'm curious to know your thoughts on the Trailblazers. They went and got veteran help this year. You know, they went and got Drew Holiday, and you're talking about you're still high on Scoot. I'm still high on Scoot.
Same.
Does Drew Holiday come off the bench? What role is he playing for Portland? Do we know?
I hope he plays a lot of minutes, whether he's a starter or the 6th man, like glue guy, veteran guru. I just want him to stick around. Initially, I like the deal. Then NBA Twitter seems to have liked it for Portland, which never listen to NBA Twitter when it,
No.
Right.
if you want to find something resembling truth. But I think Anthony Simons at $28 million is an overpay. It's simple as that. And I understand how scary it is to think we're going to be paying Drew Holiday something like $40 million in 2028. But if that contract is a real problem for the Blazers, it probably means that one or both of Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe really developed to the point that you got to pay them a ton of money. And if that happens, it probably means that Drew Holiday's tutelage had something to do with it. I look to teams like you guys, like Houston, that instead of wanting to suck for an extra year or two, said like, we need to sprinkle some vets in here, get some adults in the room, because it's just not healthy for talented young guys to develop in an environment where losing is encouraged and there's like no guidance. And it's just like, we're going to keep stacking lottery picks and go from there. Joe Cronin's been our GM now since 2022. And I think we've averaged 30 wins. And really, I'm trying to think, like, I loved the Scoot pick at the time. I loved the Donovan Clingan pick at the time. But in 3 years, we've averaged 30 wins under Cronin, and we've had like one real transactional win to hang our hats on, which is the home run Denny Avdia trade. Even that, I think Bub Carrington's going to end up being a beast. But, you know, who would have thought the best asset we'd get from the Dame trade would be Toumani Camara, whom I refuse to believe our front office really liked because we passed on him with multiple picks before the Suns drafted him 52nd a few months earlier. You know, it's like, you know, something tells me the Nuggets didn't think that Jokic was going to be one of the best players of all time when they took him 41 during the Taco Bell commercial. So
exactly. I appreciate what Portland's doing, right? Like last year, you talked about kind of, yes, you're averaging 30 wins, and there's franchises out there that just are perennial losers, and people don't learn how to win in that. But like down the stretch, like Portland kind of was figuring some things out and winning basketball games and being very competitive. And I think that like basketball gods reward that. And so I think, you know, this Drew Holiday is the first step in that direction. Personally, I would love to expand the trade that we did on draft night. And this might ruffle some feathers, especially yours. But a name that we've been coveting in Memphis is Denny Avdia. We like him, how he fits on this team and his role here.
It's the most untouchable player in the NBA because of that contract.
Yeah,
I think it is. That was my question. Like, is there any hope for us to pry him away at such a deal that y'all have him on?
I actually think he's untradeable. And I know the word untradeable is thrown around so liberally these days. But how can we possibly trade him after the growth he just showed? I saw him live at MSG. When they came to play the Knicks a couple months ago, he was electric, and he dropped like 30 on the Knicks, and nobody could stop him from getting to the basket. And yeah, like I mentioned, it's a descending contract. I think he's getting paid like $11 million in like 3 years.
So stupid.
You could argue it's actually the best deal in the league outside of, you know, the superstars that are just worth every dollar they make.
Right. Jaren's on a deal like that. Currently up for an extension this year, but he's been on a descending deal. And so those like it's hard to trade those.
Yeah. For his first 2 years. Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think the Blazers have a player right now that the Grizzlies really can and should go get. You know, even Anthony Simons, like, you don't want him next to Ja. If we hadn't traded him to Boston, that's a defensive problem right away. Jeremy Grant's overpaid. Drew Holiday, you don't want to pay that money. Like, he's better actually on a team that isn't paying a ton of guys a ton of money. You probably don't want to pay DeAndre Ayton. I'm sorry. Like, I think Avdia is a wait and see, because at this point, like, we're not even sure what the ceiling is for him.
Yeah, and we made a short video where the two of us were talking about how he would fit and how he would work, and we made it a short and put it out on YouTube on Bluff City Media's YouTube page. And the Portland fans came out of the woodwork with the pitchforks and torches and lit our comments up. So I figured you might have been one of them, since Obvia's contract is just so team friendly.
My thing with Danny Obvia is last year the Memphis Grizzlies, they overachieved. Their depth overachieved, but the superstars did not. Namely, John Morant was kind of hit or miss and kind of seemed like he was in a funk most of the year where he may or may not try that game if he was playing. And every time we played Portland, he was the hardest worker on that court for either team. He was just motor through the roof. I don't care about his athletic limitations, where that dude just goes.
100%. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the Bane trade, because what I always think when I see a deal like that is the deal isn't over. It's what they do with those picks.
Right.
And first, when you hear, 4 picks, they're Orlando picks, and Orlando's set up to be solid for a long time. So these probably aren't super valuable first round picks, but now it's Cedric Coward and 3 picks. And Cedric Coward and 3 picks sounds a lot better to me than 4 amorphous, perhaps late first rounders. Where are you guys at with the Bane haul?
Yeah, I mean, if a team calls and they're offering you essentially 5 firsts, 4 firsts, and a pick swap for Desmond Bane, you don't say no, right? We love Desmond Bane and what he brought to this team. But if there was a perfect fit out there for him, it might be Orlando. He fits the timeline. He fits their style. He's exactly what they needed. He shot 51% on catch and shoot threes, open catch and shoot threes last year. To me, it's a home run deal, and you're exactly right. Like, so far, in my opinion, what we've gotten from it is KCP. I think he's going to be a Grizzly for a while. Cedric Coward, and we still have quite a few picks because we only gave up one of Orlando's, or technically 2 of Orlando's, to get y'all's 11th pick. So we still have retained all of our first-round picks, as well as what's potentially going to be a lottery pick next year, which is the better of the worst of the 2, whether it's Washington or Phoenix's first-round pick next year. So you're exactly right. We've been saying that for weeks, and I'll concede to Drew Gann here that it's a wait and see. Like, if our summer acquisition is KCP, Cedric Coward, and a bunch of assets, I'm not going to be happy. It has to evolve from here.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were at. I think Orlando was the only team that could have offered you what you got for Desmond Bane, and it worked out for both sides because they also were sour on KCP, but Grizzlies fans have always coveted KCP. Like, for some reason or another, we've just always wanted that big 3-and-D wing, and we don't feel like we've had one really ever. Our best defender ever was a 2-guard. You just didn't have that big 3-and-D wing. So you've always kind of coveted Dorian Finney-Smith. So that wasn't a detractor, but I think Orlando was happy to get rid of him. They were happy to get rid of 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane. And so it was perfect. It was perfect. The Grizzlies had to, because you're dealing with the second apron now. And I just don't think that paying 3 superstars is feasible anymore. You look at the 2 teams that were in the NBA Finals, and this reflected in the draft strategy for virtually every team that participated in the draft. So they were looking for defending wings that could defend, because OKC is going to have a real problem in a couple years when they have to decide whether to pay Chet or Jalen Williams. And then you've got Indiana, who they're going to have to pay Halliburton, and so they're going to pay, or they've got a big contract, I guess, on Pascal Siakam. It's just going to be a 2-player core for any team now if you want to have any sort of help around those 2 players. And so for the Grizzlies, it was a pretty distant third for Desmond when you talked about our big 3. And the fact that you were able to get 4 first-round picks for him, and KCP, a player that honestly we probably love more than anybody else. Dare me to say yes.
I love the buy low on KCP. He just had his worst season in a while. And I don't think he was terrible. I think he just had a poor shooting season.
And he was in a role that he shouldn't have been in, right? He was forced to be the man, right? In that Orlando offense when everybody got hurt.
That Orlando offense set NBA basketball back a few years.
So you get like a real percentage of the Desmond Bane shooting threat, the spacing, and Cedric Coward, and more picks on the way. And, you got more for Desmond Bane than we got for Damian Lillard. And it was kind of prime Dame. And the couple picks we got and the swaps for Milwaukee don't convey for like another 4 or 5 years. Whereas you guys have assets that are closer, like not as far away in the future, and therefore a little bit more valuable. Teams are more interested in getting those picks that will convey sooner. So yeah, man, I think it's really good asset management. And I think it was ridiculous the way the national media immediately jumped to the conclusion that like you guys are blowing it up and this version of the Grizzlies core is a thing of the past. Like, no, you can turn those picks around really quickly and reshape, because it's becoming really clear in this current CBA setup. Like, you can't be paying 3 or 4 guys massive money. Like, you need to spread that money out and find really valuable contributors on rookie contracts. And Cedric Coward has a sneaky star ceiling, but also a super high floor with the shooting and defense. I think he's going to be able to help you sooner rather than later. I mean, if Jalen Wells can help you as a rookie, I guarantee you a healthy Cedric Coward can help you as a rookie.
Absolutely.
They're the same archetype. They're that toughness, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful. Like, the more we've listened to Cedric Coward in local interviews with Chris Vernon and in Mike Wallace and with all these other people around Memphis, like, the more I'm falling in love with this kid, because he says, I don't know if somebody trained him or what, but he says the right things about tenacity, grit, playing hard. I don't have to have all the points to contribute. I can still contribute at a high level without the basketball. Like, all the high character things about him, intangibles are there. Just get healthy. Because again, we saw what a rookie could do last year. That's a great point about Jalen Wells, who was relatively unheralded and unheard of, who stepped in and played a major role for us and could have helped us a lot. Now, we're not going to beat Oklahoma City in a 7-game series, but he could have helped us tremendously in that series, a lot more than what we had. But I'm looking forward to see what Cedric Coward can do on this team, because he just fits the mold of what the Grizzlies needed. Like you were talking about, that 3-and-D type wing, and that's really what's been holding us back. And now we've got it on a rookie deal that can help us extend Jaren this summer and add a couple pieces around the edges.
Yep. Washington State wings who can shoot and have some good positional size. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. Back-to-back years. Jalen Wells and Cedric Coward.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you guys. I'm really depressed that he isn't on our team, but I think Cedric Coward and 3 first-rounders and the swaps, and the swap, that's a really good haul for Desmond Bane. Even though, and it hurts to see that guy go, because you built with him, one of the best shooters on planet Earth. I think the fit in Orlando will be great, as you said, but you got to be happy with the asset management as a Grizzlies fan.
Absolutely.
I love that he went to the East. That he went to the East.
Yeah, I love that. We can root for him on the Magic. I got one last question for you, Drew. We'll let you get out of here way over the time that you told us you'd be here. So thank you for hanging out with us. And at the end, we'll let you tell the people where they can find you. But what does a winning summer look like for Portland? We've talked about the Grizzlies, what we're going to do, what we're going to build around. What does a winning summer look like this summer for y'all?
A big piece of this, jokes aside, is convincing Drew Holiday to stay and do for our young pieces what CP3 did for OKC in 2020. I think he had a lot to do with Shea's leap, like the first of many leaps that Shea took in OKC. And Shea's talked about it openly for a while now, that was like a defining season for him, kind of entering the CP3 guard dojo and learning all the dark arts that have contributed to Shea's greatness today.
So plenty of dark arts that CP3 contributes to.
He's the athlete I like the least all time. So I'm just gonna leave that alone.
I'm not sure that we have many moves coming now that we got off of Anthony. It'll be interesting to see if we can find any Jeremy Grant suitors. He's getting paid a lot for a couple more years. We signed him to like a 5-year, $165 million contract. And that didn't turn out to be great because he doesn't want to play for a bad team. And it seems like if he gets a paper cut, he's missing 2 weeks at this point as a Blazer. I'm not sure if we have many moves on the way besides that, potentially an Ayton trade if we need a team that's really thirsty for a center and is willing to take on his contract. But I've been out on Ayton ever since he didn't play because he couldn't get his car over a sheet of ice, $30 million a year, but he doesn't want to call an Uber. So I'm not the biggest Ayton guy, but I don't think the rest of the league is either. So I think we're really kind of riding with what we've got at this point. The initial report was that Drew was pretty unhappy and doesn't want to be a Portland Trailblazer. I really hope that isn't true. He's known as like one of the best dudes in the league. And I feel like we can probably talk him into, really helping out our young guys. And as we kind of build towards something, but I'm really pumped for this next season for the Blazers. I really, really pray they don't try to suck, because I know next year's draft is top heavy with Debonsa, Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson going to Kansas. Like they're exciting, shiny guys at the top of the draft next year that make a lot of teams want to lose a lot of games. And it would be so dumb for us to do that because, as you mentioned earlier, our second half of the season was great. We have a chance now to have a top 5 defense, adding Drew Holiday to the Tumani, Denny, Klingon infrastructure. Like we have a lot of defensive weapons now at our disposal. And like, I'd much rather fight for a play-in, give these young guys a taste of winning and a lot of competitive minutes of basketball and go from there. If we can get any value, any draft capital, young flyers from the Jeremy or Ayton contracts, like that's gravy. I'm guessing that other teams feel the way about those guys that I do. And we're pretty much what we're going to be heading into next season.
Well, and you know what happens if you tank.
Yeah.
Is you get the 6th pick of the draft.
That's it.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's what you're going to get.
But, yeah. I will say, like, Young Hanson's already had a few amazing sound bites. You know, he said his favorite things to do are play PS5, eat, and sleep. And so he's immediately one of the more relatable guys around the league. He's got a clothing line entitled Handsome and Young. So I've got that in parentheses now as like my ex name. Yeah. He might be awesome, but I don't think he's going to be as awesome as Cedric Coward. If he could show anything to really give us hope, that would be great. But yeah, the more I think about it, like we have 5 centers on the roster. A lot's going to need to change. It's right now we've got Klingon, Young, Dwap Reith, Ayton, and Robert Williams. We can't go into the season with all of those guys, but I don't think any of those deals are going to result in anything particularly notable since at this point, nobody can trust that Robert Williams is going to stay healthy.
I mean, that's exactly right.
We will give you a little bit for Donovan Klingon. We'll just run it back.
To break my heart, man. I had him 3rd on my board last year and we got him 7, but hey, I mean,
we were all in.
Both.
We were all in on Klingon, and the city of Memphis has never forgiven Jake Fisher for botching that trade announcement that he announced during the trade last year that the Grizzlies had traded for the 5th pick with Charlotte. And then he was like, oh, wait, never mind.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
it was Klingon for me. I was big on like Khalil Ware was my guy. I wanted him so bad, and he's been so great. He was so great for Miami last year. But either one of those, and then Zach Edey being the consolation prize, it is.
I got an idea. We could give you Edey for Klingon, and you can just have the Asian front court, and I'll be happy. And you can come be my co-host while Rusty chases Zach Edey all the way to Portland.
The biggest Blazers fan conspiracy theory circulating right now is that the team is for sale. Jody Allen is trying to sell the team, and drafting Hansen Young, doubled our value because the Chinese market now is just coming.
Yuki Kawamura.
Keep tabs on Blazers' social media numbers because I think the follower account is about to skyrocket. Yeah, man. The last thing I'll say about Klingon is I thought last year, just looking at all his UConn tape, if things really work out, there's a little bit of Marc Gasol DNA in there. Just the way that he cares much more about contribution to winning than box score stuff is special. And I don't think he has Marc Gasol's footwork, and I think he's always going to have slightly heavier feet than Marc Gasol did. But I believe in Klingon, which makes me sad because there's no way that we're going to be able to do him and Young long term.
Yeah, Kling Kong, whatever you want to call him, is just a force defensively on the glass. Like, I like his game. I think you're right. Like that, he's very cerebral, very smart basketball player. And so I'm watching his development from afar, not in Beale Street Blue. Does make me sad. But Drew, we've kept you here for a lot longer than we promised, man. Thank you for hanging out. Tell the people where they can find you and your podcast.
Yeah. Check me out at Drew Semler, Semler, on X, and the Borsberg podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are trying to do more because we love this stuff. I do it with my best friend from college, Max Klotz. He's a Knicks fan. I'm a Blazers fan, but we talk about general NBA stuff. Yeah, man, hoop dreams. And I appreciate you guys, man. I would have done it for another hour. I could do this stuff forever.
Yeah, this is fun, man. You are truly an honorary third buck, man. You said all the right things about Memphis and player development and the CP3 thing I can overlook and the Ole Miss thing, but you're welcome back anytime, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Hotty toddy, Rip City.
God. All right, on the other side of the commercial break, we got plenty more NBA stuff to get into. Drew, thanks again, buddy, and we'll see y'all on the other side.
Looking for an alternative to alcohol or conventional medicine? Check out Ounce of Hope, a Memphis-based dispensary with 2 local stores in the Sanderland Center and on South Cooper Street. You can get all the products you need in a location convenient to you. Each store offers an intentional shopping experience with dedicated bud tenders to answer all of your questions, from product selection and mushroom blends to our personal favorite, the Delta 9 seltzers. You gotta try the Peach Buzz. Try Ounce of Hope at either one of their 2 Memphis stores or at www.ounceofhope.com for convenient products shipped right to your door. Use the promo code BluffCity for 15% off any order, excluding sale items. Cannot be used in conjunction with other promotions or discounts. One use per customer. In the heart of the Highland Strip for 27 years, Trilogy Tattoo has helped tell stories for Memphians for generations. Located at 530 South Highland, Richie and his team are waiting to help you tell yours.
From tattoos to piercings, your body art should be as unique as you are. Voted a Memphis Flyer top 3 tattoo shop in the city of Memphis since day one. Your story will be safe here at Trilogy Tattoo.
Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 11 to 11, and 3 to 11 on Sundays. They have convenient times waiting on you. Let Trilogy Tattoo help you tell your story.
All right. Welcome to segment 3, and thank you to Drew Semler for joining on and letting us make light of his pain while also, just enjoying we were the beneficiaries of his pain, and he took that well. And very good conversation. Really glad to have him here on the Two Buck Sports Show.
Yeah, man, he was awesome. Drew, thank you for hanging out, buddy. Y'all go check out him and his podcast. Check him out on Twitter. Again, he handled that, like you said, a lot better than I probably would have. So shout out to Drew for that. But Drew, Two Buck Sports Show, Drew. We've got a lot of NBA stuff to talk about. So y'all might get a little bit longer episode. Again, we're recording on Sunday. Nothing really going on until later. So buckle up, because the NBA has been on fire over the weekend with trades. And we'll kind of start. We've got a list we're going to kind of run down and talk through it as we go. But the 2 big trades of the weekend, Drew, so far as of this recording at 4:48 God's time zone on Sunday, is a Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro swap straight up, and then a Colin Sexton and a Yusuf Nurkic trade between the Jazz and the Hornets. One of these, Drew, I like a whole lot more than the other one. What are your thoughts on these first 2 trades that we've seen?
I like Lonzo Ball going to Cleveland. That backcourt is just so small that you inject a little bit of size and a little bit of defensive capabilities there. Lonzo Ball's shot is pretty solid from 3, so I think he could fit in. Listen, Lonzo was always the guy, even when he was being, looked at and scouted in college. He's just a big point guard like Sharon, and I think he'll fit well there. I like it. Isaac Okoro was a wing that couldn't shoot, and so worst case scenario, if you're Cleveland, is you got a bigger guard that has an iffy shot. He just got to stay healthy. I like it.
Yeah, so Ball fits, and I personally like that fit a lot, just because Donovan Mitchell can't be the guy, right? Like, he's proven time and time again he needs another guy beside him, which is Evan Mobley, or you've got Jared Allen that can help score. But if Lonzo Ball can set the table and run that offense and get Donovan in good spots for him to be like, he's kind of a Desmond Bain catch and shoot, 1-2 dribble, make a move type player. I think this could be really, really good for Cleveland, and might make Darius Garland a great trade asset to go get you a bit of help, right? Because you've got scoring in Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter. You got other guys who can score. Evan Mobley can score. Like, you got guys who can get buckets. And if Darius Garland can help you fill a need, if Lonzo Ball steps in and just has this big rejuvenation, which he could, because in Chicago, I don't think he got a fair shake, right? Because they were trying to end his career and say he'll never play basketball again. Stephen A. Smith, once again, he tweeted that out. And Lonzo Ball was like, this is cap. Like, this is not true. So maybe a fresh start is what he needs. And I personally think he fits super well in Cleveland. And Isaac Okoro, just a lottery pick that didn't work out there, and he's got another shot in Chicago.
I don't think I'll ever understand what the Bulls do, because, it was rumored at the trade deadline that Lonzo Ball could be a target for the Grizzlies, and we were all like, okay, cool, I like that. And then they just signed him to extension only to trade him in the offseason. I'll never understand what Chicago does. There's a graphic that goes, that was going around talking about all the players that Chicago's traded and the players they've gotten back, and they have gotten no picks back. They get no picks at all.
They have shipped out DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, and now Lonzo Ball. All have been traded. And for those 4 players, the Bulls have not got a single draft pick in return. That is malpractice on a Phoenix Suns type level.
Yeah, it's bad. And the Charlotte trade, the thing I hope for the most out of the Colin Sexton and Yusuf Nurkic trade is that Charlotte just tries to win, because I want so bad Colin Sexton to not be the player who spends his whole career on teams that don't try. Mm-hmm. Because I love Colin Sexton. I believe he is just a fiery dude. It goes without saying on this show how much we love Colin Sexton. Yeah. I really hope that Charlotte tries to win with him. He needs to be on a winning team at some point.
And they're kind of building something there in Charlotte. They got a lot of young players, but there's some guys that can score, right? We'll see what, Knipple can do. They picked up Liam McNeely late in the draft. Brandon Miller is a bucket. Now you got Colin Sexton. Maybe he can be the guy that kind of drives that engine for him. And LaMelo, and they're getting Mark Williams back, who apparently will never be traded from Charlotte.
That was central, bro.
No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay. I was about to get there because those pesky physicals and NBA Centil is what I was getting at. Thanks for rooting the joke there. But you've got something to build there, right? You've got players that you can build around with shooting. They do need some size because they don't really have a post player anymore. But I'm curious what Charlotte's doing there. Maybe Sexton can be kind of the light to that fire there.
Yeah, I like it. What else you got next?
So we've had a lot of signings and people opting in. I think the big one that we got to talk about is LeBron James picking up his team option, but doing it in a way that says, look, I'm going to get paid $52.6 million, but around that, you need to build a championship team or I'm out of here, Drew. It's just, to me, it's just further solidifies his reputation as a whiny crybaby, prima donna, all about the LeBron James, image. And again, I'm all for people getting a bag, but you can't say I'm going to take $53 million and you got to build around me a championship team or I'm out. What were your thoughts on LeBron opting in?
Well, my first thought was, duh, whoever says no to $52.6 million in a year, of course you're going to pick it up. Does this make it, he's 42 now, right? And
he'll be 40. He's 40. He'll be 41 next year.
Okay. Is it finally time to start thinking about retirement at this point? If you're on the last year of a deal now, which this signifies, maybe at the end is really near. If you've been saying it for the last 10 years, there's reason to believe that you may have been right. Yeah. But you're getting more and more likely to be right the more it goes on.
And, him and his agent, they kind of put out a little cryptic tweet. We appreciate what Jenny and the Laker organization has done and for the last 8 years. And it felt kind of like a closing of the book type statement. And maybe if they go make some pieces around him and Luka, that he might stay. But it very much felt like a statement of we're going to opt in, but we're going to exercise our trade clause and we're going to get shipped somewhere else.
Let me ask you this, because, of course, he's just a kid from Akron, going back to Cleveland. Kevin O'Connor said that if he was to ever have his return and retire as a Cleveland Cavalier, they would have to give up Garland and Jared Allen. Jared Allen and at least one more person. Mm-hmm. If you're in Los Angeles and you've got your future now with Luka, do you owe him anything? And keep in mind, Jenny Buss is not making the calls anymore. She may be president, but we saw this whole, Mark Cuban still retaining his title, but then he found out after the Luka Doncic trade happened that he got traded. Is it?
Yeah. I was about to say there is a financial sheet where it works in Cleveland with LeBron and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, and they can piece
Cleveland
around
says
it.
No, though, right?
They have to. They have to, because but if you're the Lakers, do you say no to a Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and I forget who the other player is, and some picks? You absolutely take that because it solves a lot of issues. You get a true point guard in Darius Garland when he's healthy again. You solve your center problem through Jared Allen, who's one of the better bigs in the game right now. If you're the Lakers, you'd be silly not to at least call Cleveland and say, hey, would you make this trade?
Yeah, but if you think about it from the Cleveland side now, it's you're basically taking in $56 million of what could be dead money. And what do you have next year? You were just the best team in the Eastern Conference. And so
if you're Cleveland, you don't blow it up.
The Eastern Conference is
No.
wide open. The Eastern Conference is wide open this year. Maybe you just say, we're going to let LeBron take us to the Eastern Conference Finals one more time. But I don't know.
But then it's an expiring deal. Then you got a $52.6 million, of cap flexibility the next year. And so, like,
you're rebuilding around Don again.
If I was like Boston or, Indiana, who is without their superstar for a year and you're going to blow it up anyway, like Boston, absolutely you take a flyer on LeBron. But I think Cleveland's built too good of a culture with what they have there for them to blow it up for LeBron. And that's not just me being a LeBron hater.
Yeah.
But a couple other signings happened today on Sunday, Drew. The Minnesota Timberwolves re-signed both Naz Reid and Julius Randle for under $250 million. Naz Reid got a 5-year, $125 million deal. Mm-hmm. Julius Randle got a 3-year, $100 million deal with some great financial footwork. Drew, this feels like a pretty big win for the Timberwolves, especially keeping Naz Reid, who I think everybody thought was going to ship out and go somewhere else for greener pastures.
Yeah, so I text you in the group message with Wayno and Luke, and I was like, listen, I'm torn about this because I feel like $25 million a year for Naz Reid's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But $25 million a year for a backup center seems excessive. Mm-hmm. So what's going to give here? And does this lean towards a Gobert trade? They were readily going to make Gobert available in a Kevin Durant trade. Do they keep looking that out to try to get off of Gobert?
I think so.
I don't know. Maybe they just run it back. They went to the Western Conference Finals. I don't think it's silly to think that you should run it back. So we'll just see.
Yeah, I'm looking up their salary table now because I don't know. Do you know how many years Rudy Gobert has left on his deal?
He signed it when he got to Minnesota, so I'm guessing probably 3?
All right, so here it is. So Rudy Gobert is under contract through the 26-27 season. Then he's got a player option for 27-28. It's a descending deal, so it could be team friendly. $43 million this year, $35 next, 36, and I guess it descends and then goes back up. 35 next, 36, 38. So he still owed $115 million. And so to me, this very much feels like a guy that's going to be moved because you've now got a $25 million Naz Reid. You've got a roughly $30 million Julius Randle. You owe Ant ascending up to $55 million. Jaden McDaniels is 23 going up to $30 million. So, they're going to have to do some fancy footwork to get this to work. And so, to me, like I said in the group chat, this feels like, especially now that Julius Randle has signed, that Gobert is going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, you just got to find somebody willing to take it, and make the money work.
Yep. Last couple of things, we've had a couple of Sam Merrill re-signed in Cleveland. He's going to stick around and be their sharpshooter, which opens the door for Ty Jerome, who we'll talk about in just a minute. Another signing today during the show, Bobby Portis re-signed in Milwaukee. He was a name that was kind of floating up as somebody that the Grizzlies might want to go with, but he signs a $44 million deal. I believe it's a 1-year or 2-year deal worth $44 million. So that gets us to the Grizzlies finally. All right, Drew, we've had a lot of movements in the free agent market and trade so far, and it's just getting started. Free agency doesn't even really start for another minute in the NBA. It officially kicks off. Free agency kicks off at 5 p.m. Central today. So 1 minute as of this recording. But there's a couple of players that are going to be floating around out there that might interest Memphis Grizzly fans. I got 3 names for you that we'll talk about as we're starting to wind down the show here. So the first one that was mentioned earlier today with the re-signing of Sam Merrill, the Cleveland Cavaliers appear to be moving off of one Ty Jerome, known sharpshooter who Maggie and I went and watched him personally cook Memphis when they played in the Grindhouse earlier this year. Guy was just a bucket that night. We had nothing for him. Drew, what are your thoughts on Ty Jerome's fit on this team and how he kind of fits what we're trying to do?
I like him as a role player. He's not undersized. What's he, like 6'3",
6'5"? He's 6'5".
He's a big guy. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be a defensive stopper, but he plays really hard, and he shoots a really good percentage from 3. So, yeah, I'm absolutely in on Ty Jerome being a Grizzly. My only fear, and I don't even know if this is realistic or not, but, how much is just a product of being on that Cleveland team last year that was just so. I mean, the Cavalanche was a real thing last year, and so I think that I would absolutely take a ticket on Ty Jerome. Just that would be my only concern, although I think it's a fairly muted concern.
Yeah, I mean, again, forgive me if I'm a little bit nervous about bringing in an elite shooter and him not working out in Memphis because he doesn't want to shoot the ball, Luke Kennard. He has bad knees, CP. I'm not even going to say his name, but it looks like it's going to cost you around the full mid-level exception for a Ty Jerome, around $14 million. So there's going to have to be, again, the Grizzlies are going to have to position themselves in a way that you can bring him on board and re-sign Jaren. I think the decision then becomes Santi Aldama or Ty Jerome. And of those two, Drew, which one would you rather have on this team as constructed?
That's interesting. I think I would just roll it back with Santi.
I agree.
I think a 6'10" dude that his upside is a really dependable shooter, albeit streaky at times. I think I go with the size and the guy that you've brought up since birth,
Because here's the thing. As much as we hate on Santi Aldama, guys who are nearly 7 foot that can dribble and shoot like that are very rare. And yes, there are defensive liability issues, but you put him on the court with KCP, with Jaren, with Jalen, you can hide some of that a little bit. I think I agree. I think I would go with the size because what the Memphis Grizzlies need is help at the wing and help in the post while Zach Edey is out. So I got two names for you as we wrap up the show.
What could be the deciding factor if they are actually choosing between those two is that Santi Aldama could make more money. Get an offer sheet for a lot more money than Ty Jerome did.
Ty Jerome you could get for $14 million. Santi might cost you closer to $20 depending on if there's a bidding war or not. But the last two that fit both of those roles, Dorian Finney-Smith is not re-signing with the Lakers and is now a full free agent. He was rumored to come to Memphis. Apparently, we had a deal, basically some structure work coming through, only for the Lakers to swoop in last minute and steal him out from underneath us, as well as a current / also now former net, just like DFS. One, Day'Ron Sharpe is no longer under contract with the Brooklyn Nets. Drew, he's a post player who averaged just over 8 points, just under 7 rebounds a game in 18 minutes last year. Do either one of those move the needle as guys that we could go get? Keep in mind, they're going to be a lot cheaper options than, say, a Ty Jerome or a Santi Aldama, especially DFS going to LA and being such a stinker at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm still just kind of zoning in on big guys. It's where I'm at. I feel like that's the biggest hole at this point. And so, yeah, I'd look into Day'Ron Sharpe. He declined a 1-year, $6 million option, but there's reason to believe from Michael Scotto here that reported it that he could be negotiating and decline it so you can sign a longer term deal, and so that's interesting. The other one, DFS, he had his was a little bit different than our guy KCP. One, we can't have both of them on the same team. I'll never keep it straight.
No.
DFS,
have
KCP,
three names. Yeah.
ABC, WSJ, CSI. I'll never be able to get all of it. So no, for that reason, I'm out on DFS.
I know a lot
Speaking
of
daily fantasy, Malik Beasley may be able to be picked at the federal penitentiary. Federal penitentiary.
Yeah, brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA announced today that the FBI is investigating Malik Beasley, who had kind of the framework of a $42 million extension with the Detroit Pistons in the works, is under investigation for betting and doing prop bets on games that he participated in and other NBA games. Drew, again, brought to you by FanDuel, wherever you do your sporting sports betting. The audacity, but don't forget to tune in to FanDuel for $1,000 on your first bet or whatever.
ESPN bet. ESPN bet. Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird time in sports, right? You can bet on sports. They're sponsored by sports betting, but as an athlete, you better not be betting on sports.
Yeah. No. But I'd take Malik Beasley with an ankle bracelet.
I would take Malik Beasley. A lot of people are.
He doesn't even have to be sized for an ankle bracelet. They already know.
Yeah. like for me, Dorian Finney-Smith doesn't move the needle. A lot of people were saying, let's go get him while he's cheap, blah, 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 blah. I didn't love what he did in the Lakers. I didn't love the trade. I'm on record on this show saying I didn't love him coming here from Brooklyn. I would have dealt with it, but I didn't love it. And so I don't want to go sign him in free agency when I think there are better fringe moves that could be made, particularly when we are in desperate need of a big man while Zach Edey is going to be out until December. But Drew, that's all we got time for today. We've got a lot more NBA stuff coming. I think you just had a revelation.
Could I interest you in a Mo Wagner?
I saw where Orlando declined. I know you're not as big on him. Franz is obviously the better brother.
Of course.
I would
just
hate
as Clark.
if we get him cheap.
We still let you hang around.
Yeah. If we can get him cheap, I would take him here in Memphis. I'd take a flyer on him in Memphis.
They declined an $11 million option, and Caleb Houston make it 2.1, who our friend from the Locked On Magic podcast loves Caleb Houston.
Yeah.
So
maybe he'll be a Grizzly after all. But that's going to do it for our show today, guys. Plenty more is going to happen. Be with us here back live on Wednesday. Regular scheduled programming. Drew, I hope you educated the masses today and did not electrocute yourself with that fort. Just put on a really cool light show. But until Wednesday, go be a friend to somebody who needs a friend. And remember, there are no refunds for what you heard today on the $2 Sports Show.
that's right, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page, like this video, and leave a comment. We will see you back here in a few days.